Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Happy Thursday. Sorry I wasn't able to be with you guys yesterday. There were some studio scheduling issues, and I was just as bummed as you that I had a whole show planned and didn't get to come talk to you guys. So glad to be back today. And I was thinking every day. Obviously, I'm like digging through the news, trying to find the most important stories of the day, trying to find stories of interest, to me, but also more importantly to you guys. And as I'm going through all of the different stories, I keep coming across the same kind of story. And it's the type of story that's alarming. Like, if you see it one time, it's alarming. If you see it multiple times, it's very alarming. And for some reason, seemingly almost every day for the last several weeks, I keep seeing headlines like this one. Teacher Madison Bergman, who was set to be married in 2 months, is arrested for sexually assaulting and making out with an elementary school student. Let me give you some info here. Madison Bergman, 24, was arrested and faces 1 count of first-degree child sexual assault after a parent of a 5th grader reported her to Rivercrest Elementary School administrators. On Wednesday, the child's father handed over printed text messages between Bergman and the student, where she allegedly told the child that she liked when the victim touched her and that she enjoyed making out with them. An 11-year-old boy. Here's another. Female school teacher's aide arrested on sexual assault charges involving minor, allegedly sent him texts, nude photos, and money. Lauren Angelica King, 32, working as an instructional support aide, requested a 13-year-old male student's phone number and began texting him sexual messages, which included nude photographs and videos of her performing sexual acts on herself. Here's another one. Broward Middle School teacher arrested for inappropriate contact with student. Felicia Smith, 38, claimed she and a female student developed a maternal relationship that led to kissing on school grounds. And according to her arrest report, Smith kissed the student on the cheek to the point where a hickey was left behind. I don't know. Doesn't sound very maternal to me. Here's another one. Junior high teacher arrested for inappropriate relationship with student. Look at that. She is lovely. Gatesville Independent School District Police arrested Christine Page Cockrell, a Gatesville Junior High 8th grade earth science teacher, on Friday, May 3rd, on 2 charges regarding an inappropriate relationship with a 15-year-old high school student. And they go on. On Thursday, April 11th, Gatesville ISD was notified that a student allegedly received inappropriate messages from 54-year-old Cockrell. According to 2 filed complaints, the student revealed during a doctor's appointment that Cockrell had sent him sexually explicit messages through Instagram. The complaint said, during this time, the conversation involved meeting up for sex, but they did not do so. Let me give you one more. Teacher who got pregnant by 13-year-old student gets 10 years in jail. Alyssa McCommon, a 38-year-old teacher teaching in the 4th grade in Tennessee, was arrested in September 2023, eventually pleading not guilty to 23 sex charges because, you see, this one really takes the cake. She was initially accused of raping a 12-year-old boy, but her charges increased as police discovered more than 20 additional victims. According to a new Daily Mail investigation that I was reading. I'm telling you this because this is a growing epidemic right now. So at least 25 female teachers across 16 states in this country have been arrested for sex crimes just within the last year. Now, I was doing some digging on this, and within this investigation, it found that the typical profile of a female teacher sex offender is a white woman in her 30s. I'm also sure that it's of no significance that white women in their 30s also tend to be Democrats. They're more likely to be Democrats. Hey, I won't make the connections there. You do it. So if you think your kids are safe at public school because they're with some nice old lady for 8 hours a day, you're still wrong. Okay? So if you think that, I don't know, they're females. They're going to be maternal. Nope. Sorry. And if they're going to try to trans them, they're going to try to trans them. So if they're not going to be able to trans them by convincing them to use a different pronoun and, turning them into a sexual deviant during instructional time at school, apparently they'll just do it themselves behind the scenes. And by the way, on the topic of this, it always really bothers me that when the boys are victims, you always hear oh, come on. It's every boy's dream to get sexual with the teacher. There are comedy movies about that. I don't know. I don't think that this 11-year-old that I was talking about, this 13-year-old, who is now a father, okay, I don't think these young boys are ready for this. I don't think that 11-year-old was ready to be touched like that by an adult that he was supposed to be able to trust. So if you don't think that this isn't going to stick with him and screw him up in ways that he doesn't fully comprehend yet, I don't know what to tell you. And I say all this and I bring all of this to your attention to just remind you guys to stop sending your kids to these hellholes, if for nothing else, so your children are not taught and molested by these she-demons, who, by the way, gotta say, if that happened to my son, either of my sons, but I'm just thinking about my 11-year-old because he's the same age range as all of these victims. If that had happened to my son by any one of these women, or a man, by the way, I want to make this very clear. You would never find the body. Ever. So please get your kids the hell out of public schools. It is a cesspool. It is rotted from the inside out. There is no fixing it. These women go into schools knowing that they can go in there, pretend to be maternal, manipulate these children, and then, of course, take advantage of their vulnerabilities. Get your kids out of these hellholes. And with that being said, speaking of public school hellholes, I'm going to speak with the mother of a boy who was suspended from his hellhole for using the term illegal alien when we return. But first, we got to thank our sponsor, Jace Medical. So look, Jace Medical I love partnering with Jace Medical because the fact of the matter is this. Most of your medication is manufactured in China. And by the way, if COVID should have taught us anything, it's number one, we shouldn't do that. That's a really bad idea. But apparently our government doesn't learn from the mistakes. So we still do that. And what that means is whenever there is there's a shortage, maybe something happens in China, whatever the case may be, the point is you might not be able to get your life-saving medication that you need when you actually need it. And the thing is that we talk so much about emergency food. Right? We want to be prepared for an emergency. We understand the importance of being prepared for an emergency, but somehow that doesn't translate to medication. Well, it should. And that is why Jace Medical has the Jace case. So it's a personalized emergency kit. It contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. They've got ivermectin as an add-on that you can get personalized, and you can buy a gift card for your family or loved one so that they also can get a Jace case of their own, personalize it to their needs. Be empowered to take care of yourselves and your loved ones during the unexpected. Get yours today. You can go to jacemedical.com, enter code Sarah at checkout for a discount. That is promo code Sarah at jasemedical.com. So you may have heard the story of Christian McGee. It's going viral online right now, but if you haven't, he is a 16-year-old North Carolina high school sophomore who was given a 3-day out-of-school suspension from his principal for using the term illegal alien in class because apparently that was very racially insensitive. See, that in and of itself is ridiculous enough, but to make matters even more ridiculous, he wasn't actually calling anyone an illegal alien. He wasn't hurling it as an insult or anything like that. He was asking his teacher for clarification on the vocabulary word aliens, which his teacher had assigned. So he asked his teacher if that word, aliens, was referring to space aliens or illegal aliens who need green cards. Well, apparently asking a question for context to complete your assignment warrants a 3-day out-of-school suspension these days in public schools in America. And yesterday, the Liberty Justice Center filed a lawsuit on behalf of Christian against the Davidson County Board of Education, accusing the school of depriving Christian of his First Amendment rights, along with his right to an education and due process. Joining me now to discuss this case are both Leah McGee, Christian's mother, along with Liberty Justice Center's educational freedom attorney, Dean McGee, which I just want to be clear, you guys are of no relation. Just total coincidence. And those of you who are listening on audio podcasts, their names are spelled differently. So just wanted to point that out. So I appreciate both of you for joining me. Leah, I want you to walk me through like what happened, how it came to your attention that this had happened. Walk me through this.
Sure. So on April the 9th, my son was excused to go to the restroom in his English class. Upon returning, there was a conversation in class regarding aliens, to which Christian interjected and raised his hand and said to the teacher, like spaceship aliens or illegal aliens who need green cards. The teacher said, "Christian, watch your mouth." A student of Latino descent turned around and told Christian, "I'm going to kick your, you know what." Mm-hmm. Now, I want to make this clear that the student that turned around, he and Christian have been partners in assignments in class, and they are acquaintances. They've, always been friendly with each other, so much so that the teacher pairs them to do their assignments together. So this was two 16-year-old boys just going back and forth and, in jest. The teacher called administration because the boys caused a class disturbance with what was said. Administration came and pulled both boys and the teacher into the hallway, where both boys told the assistant principal that the exchange was innocent. The Latino child said he took no offense. Christian said, "I was not even directing my question towards anyone, just the teacher. And everyone in this country that is here illegally are illegal aliens. I never said anything about it being directed towards my Hispanic classmate." The assistant principal then told both boys, speaking to the child of Latino descent, "No, sir, this is a big deal, and this does matter." So after both boys said that the exchange was innocent, the assistant principal was the one that said, "No, sir, this is a big deal." Both boys were then taken to the assistant principal's office, where Christian was written up for 3-day suspension out of school, given a write-up, and the write-up is in our complaint, and you can clearly say that Christian violated a policy of racism. He said that Christian's comment was racially motivated and racially insensitive to his Latino classmate. He also told my husband and I, while we were meeting with him, that he equated Christian's comment about alien needing green cards. He equated that with Christian using the N-word.
No.
So when we initially got the call from the school, we were told Christian said a racist comment. I was furious. Because Christian is raised in a Christian household where we instill, beliefs in Jesus Christ, love, acceptance, forgiveness. So when they told me that my child made a racial comment, I was furious, and I went to the school in order to punish him. I had full intention to punish him. Upon learning what was exactly said, I became even more outraged because, first of all, alien is not a race. Right. So there's no cause for racism in this. And that's when we began to show the principal the term online. We looked it up in the dictionary, showed him what it says. those who are here without documentation, a green card. After all of this and begging him to remove this label that carries so much weight, he refused. Christian is new at this school. We recently moved from Oak Island, North Carolina, so he's only been going to this school since August. A 16-year-old child having to transfer schools is hard enough, leaving the county that he grew up in. So that was difficult enough. But now to be labeled as a racist, that was traumatizing to him. He missed 2 very important track meets, was allowed to volunteer at those track meets, but could not participate. I then contacted the head principal and spoke with her over the phone, begged her to remove the label that was unfairly placed on our child. She refused, but she did offer to write Christian a letter of recommendation for colleges to support his character. So that confused me. You're not willing to remove the label of racism, yet you're willing to write a character recommendation for what you say is a racist.
Right.
We respectfully declined her letter of recommendation. And shortly after, President Trump himself sent Christian a letter of recommendation for all colleges and employment. So that was such a bright light for Christian and made him feel so supported by doing that. So that's the short version of the events that happened. But, you know, we tried to take care of this privately for 3 weeks. They refused. I contacted the school board. To this day, this is week 4. The school board has yet to respond to any of my emails. I was able to address the school board on Monday night. And since I was able to bring the truth of the situation to light, we've received an overwhelming amount of support.
That's great. In fact, that was going to be one of my questions was, what has the community reaction been? Because I could imagine that this community, even though you're new, that this community is like, that could have been any one of our kids making a benign comment, and you would go so far as to remove them from school, give them, suspension like that, put a scarlet letter on them. And then, of course, that could be detrimental to scholarships in the future. Yes. So you're going to tar and feather this kid over a benign comment.
Right. So prior to us going public and trying to do this to give the school the respect that they did not show us by handling this in a private way, we went through 3 weeks of absolute torture. Christian received threats. When he returned to school after his suspension, children were, even like his buddies, were walking down the hallway saying, what's up, racist? Children of Latino descent in the school were threatening to fight him because they took it as racist. So this administration, all because they would not apologize, continued to put Christian at risk. Right. Which blew our mind. Yeah, that is incredible. The Liberty Justice Center has stepped in on our behalf, and we have filed the lawsuit, and this has gone public, and we're finally able to speak the truth of what happened, saying the Hispanic child took no offense. I even personally asked the assistant principal if I could meet with the Latino child, his mother, his father, and the teacher, so that we could handle this in his office and make sure that it was handled and there were no hard feelings. He refused. Wow. So because of that, Christian received many threats because everyone at the school thought he was racist. His track coach even came up to him and said, "You cannot compete because I heard what you said. I heard that you got written up for racism." Without knowing the whole story. Right.
Which, again, to your point earlier, the Latino kid himself, it sounds like he already said, we were just joking. It was not a big deal. I didn't take offense. And in fact, I think I remember reading this. Correct me if I'm wrong. He said something to the effect of the principal must be the one, or the assistant principal might be the one that's a racist because he asked why he had a low Spanish grade. And
so when Christian came back to school, after the suspension, this child came up to Christian, spoke to him and said, hey, I had no hard feelings. I didn't want you to get suspended. He got suspended, the Latino child, for 1 day in school suspension for communicating threats with Christian. And Christian said, I didn't want you to get in trouble either. And the Latino child then proceeded to tell Christian, when I was in Mr. Anderson's office, he asked me, how is your Spanish grade so low? And the Latino child said, so to me, that was racist more than anything that was said in class.
Right.
So that blew our mind.
Yeah, golly. Well, so I want to bring Dean in here to tell us about the legal side of this and why you guys decide. I mean, look, I'm going to tell you why I support you guys filing this lawsuit, but I want you to explain to the audience why you guys decided to file this lawsuit on behalf of the McGee's.
Happy to explain. So our lawsuit covers really two claims. There's Christian's First Amendment right to free speech and his 14th Amendment right to due process. So with respect to his First Amendment right to free speech, we don't want kids being scared to ask questions in class. And it was back in 1969, a brave middle schooler named Mary Beth Tinker, who was protesting the Vietnam War, wanted to wear a black armband. And when her school tried to punish her, she took her fight, and her family took her fight all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said students don't lose all their rights when they walk into school. And then the 14th Amendment claim is just as important because schools are government. And in this case, you have the government branding this kid a racist, depriving him of his right to an education for 3 days, depriving him of his ability to participate in track, and telling him there are no appeals permitted. And so we don't want any of our kids being treated this way. And that's why we filed our lawsuit. And that's why we filed it in federal court.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you have a case law in your favor here.
Look, it helps that the same month that Christian was suspended for saying this, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States used the term in an opinion. Justice Sonia Sotomayor made reference to green cards as shorthand for people who are here legally. And so Christian is using the same term in the form of a question that the Supreme Court is using to this day.
Are you seeing these kinds of First Amendment cases and things of that nature? Are these becoming more prevalent in public schools these days, do you think, Dean?
They are, and we're seeing them in different contexts. So my firm and I also represent a parent out in Oregon who, when criticizing her local school board and her local administrators, was told she wasn't even allowed to say the names or titles of the board members or the administrators she was criticizing. So, we're seeing it against kids. We're seeing it against parents. We're seeing it in all different contexts. And it's important to remember that, these rights belong to Christian just as they belong to the anti-war protesters in Vietnam. And it's important to protect them no matter what the person's opinion is. Yeah,
I totally agree. I appreciate the Liberty Justice Center and you for taking on this case, because I think that this is look, in my line of work, for me, this is the battle, and this is how we win, is we file lawsuits against all of these people, whether it be that they're indoctrinating our children into a radical ideology that we don't like, whether it be that they are depriving a child their right to education because they're making something up, they're assigning a certain belief that they think that the child had when the child didn't indicate that. I mean, whatever it is, that they're not allowing the child to, practice their religion freely, whatever the case may be, I just firmly believe that the way through this is to file all the lawsuits. And I appreciate you guys doing the legwork for that. Leah, I want to ask you one more question here. What is Christian's schooling life like now?
So we removed Christian from the school.
Bravo.
Due to the fact that the day after he was suspended, there was a bomb threat and school was canceled. And that's when he was getting threats about coming back to school. He would be fought. So for his safety, we removed him from the school. Racism is only a 3-day suspension with no appeal. Can you believe that? That should be a top tier punishment equal to hate speech.
Yeah.
And so because we couldn't appeal, we've had to go weeks with him being labeled this simply because the school would not apologize and reverse the decision. Since we removed him, he is unable to live in the home with us just because of the threat that he had been receiving at the beginning of this. He's staying with family 45 minutes away.
Oh my gosh.
And he is enrolled in the best homeschool, I believe, in North Carolina. And he's excelling. He has a job as a lifeguard now. He's doing really, really well in another county that's pretty far away from where we live. But Christian really misses his friends here. Yeah. He has a lot of support from his classmates and his track team, and he really misses them. But until the school issues an apology, a public apology, and reverses this label of racism, my discernment in my heart as a mother is not going to allow him to come back into this community. And it's a simple solution.
Yeah.
As adults, as people who are supposed to protect our children, say you were wrong. Right. Teach them how to be accountable when they are wrong, but they refuse to do so. So I'm happy to say that now, thanks to platforms like yours, thanks to the many national outlets that have reached out to us and the truth being exposed at the board meeting, Christian's doing much better. He's received support from all over the country, from Australia, from England. This story's gone international. So he's got so much support right now. But while we were trying to keep it private, he had a lot of threats. So we are so grateful that the tides are beginning to turn. And he also has the support of Ron Beatty, who runs Return America, also Senator Carl Ford. And I cannot even put into words how happy and safe he feels with Dean McGee and Liberty Justice Center backing him on this. They have been incredible, and they are educating him on his rights as an American child, an American citizen. And Christian is learning a lot about the rights that he has through Liberty Justice Center, since it certainly isn't being taught in his school.
Amen, Mama. I applaud you for being the fierce mother that you are. Do not back down. Fight for your child. It sounds like you intend to do just that. I appreciate you so much, Leah. Know that we are in your corner. Dean, I appreciate you, and keep us posted on the progress.
Will do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
Thanks.
All right. We'll be right back. Welcome to the show. Matthew Peterson, Blaze TV contributor and actor and producer extraordinaire.
Matthew Peterson.
Did I say Peterson?
Mm-hmm. We haven't even started drinking yet.
Matthew Marsden.
I'm out of here.
I'm done.
I can't work with this.
I hang out too much. They're telling me we could start it over, but I'm not going to start it over.
No, you better not start again.
I'm going to own this. I'm going to own this mistake, okay? I hang out with you guys too much, and you both share the same name. So whose fault is it really?
Yes, Mom.
And okay, so I brought you an ultra right beer.
Yep.
From my friend Seth Weathers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great. You guys should go get them. I think it's ultrarightbeer.com. But I also have tequila because my last name is Gonzalez. But they were like having a big party or something, and in the studio, in the kitchen, there's a bunch of booze out there. Someone's birthday, and I didn't get the invite, so I was like, fine.
All right.
I'll create my own party.
All right, party. And I'm not a beer drinker, really.
Okay, well, you'll like this.
Cheers.
Cheers. But I heard that you like Guinness.
I love Guinness.
Because of course you do.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
If I drink beer, I'll drink Guinness.
That's good though, right?
Yeah, it's good, yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
it is,
uh-oh, I've lost him. I've lost Matt Marsden. Mm-hmm. Got it right that time. Okay, so I want to go through some of the, there's so many trials against Trump, right? 91 indictments. So let's follow up with some of these because there might be, I don't know, maybe some good news on the horizon. So at a certain time, there were unfavorable outcomes in the 4 court cases against Donald Trump. It seemed like very likely that he would be charged with something, right? But yesterday, the Georgia Appeals Court agreed to hear an appeal in the election case brought forth by Fannie Willis. No, I'm not calling her Fani. That's too fancy for her. She's Fannie Willis. And then earlier this week, a Florida judge just indefinitely suspended the classified documents case, like just indefinitely suspended the trial for that. And then you hear what's going on in this hush money trial with Stormy Daniels, and like the prosecution's own witnesses are completely undermining the entire case. And you even have CNN, MSNBC commentators who are going on air and saying like, yeah, I don't really know what the prosecution is doing here because they really haven't proven anything. I mean, it feels like there's a shift. Is that just me?
Well, I think that we knew this before, but I think as it's all unraveling, it's undeniable that it's absolutely ridiculous. Right. I mean, we didn't need for it to go to trial to know that it was absurd.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that whenever I look at anyone having a massive shift, it's always, in my estimation, to do with the fact that they're trying to save their own asses, right? So they don't look ridiculous. And I saw like Alan Dershowitz went on yesterday, and he just absolutely destroyed the case completely. And this is just ridiculous.
All of the legal scholars are. They are all, even people who are not necessarily on our side.
That shows you how bad it is. Exactly. That shows you how bad it is.
I know. I want to play. We've got here on CNN. Former U.S. District Court judge in the Southern District of New York who went on CNN and was like, there's no evidence. Watch.
The material that came in was not relevant to this criminal case at all. And I think it shows that she was trying to get Trump. I actually thought there was a motive there. She said she hates him. She said she'd like to see him in prison. I think she was purposely throwing out this stuff to make sure the jurors were prejudiced, particularly the women jurors, but probably half of the men too, were really put off.
CNN, like I cannot overstate that. You are watching this. Well, we're not actually watching CNN because we don't hate ourselves. But you're watching this on CNN. Someone say, a former judge who, by the way, basically said what we said. I think you were here that day when we talked about it. Yeah. This is literally what we said, which was they're just putting this out there to embarrass him and manipulate the jury, to make them think that he's a bad guy. That's literally what we said.
Yeah, well, exactly right. We also said that there's no actual proof that he actually did it,
which you just said.
which is completely absurd. But isn't it indicative of the way we are in this country right now that we are so shocked that someone would be honest on CNN? Like, we are so shocked that they're not just towing the line.
Well, they'll never have her back, but...
No, I mean, that's it. She's gone. But why aren't they doing that about, what's his name, Jack Smith, is it? Like, why aren't they saying the same thing about Jack Smith? Why aren't they saying the same thing about Alvin Bragg? Why aren't they saying the same thing about all these other people? It's quite clear that they're prejudiced against Donald Trump. Hello? I mean, we know this. I don't know why this is. I mean, I do think that a broken clock tells the right time twice a day, and I think that it's got so absurd, in the litany of allegations towards him. All right, well done. You've been fair on one of them. What about all the others?
Right.
And again, because of the way that politics has been over the past few years, you do kind of go, well, why are they doing this? And I don't know. I'm certainly skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to think that they were doing it because they're actually doing their job and telling the truth.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
No, but that's where you are, right? I mean, I don't believe a word that they say, and not only not believe a word that they say, but normally they're buried if they say it, right? They don't come on, as you said, on CNN.
Right.
Nobody's watching that anyway, really.
Be fair. There's probably at least like 5 people. I mean, the people who are on there have friends and family. They have moms, okay?
Watch me on CNN. 50% increase in views. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, we're in a bad place. I mean, it's I think it's, like I said last time, I think it's good for Trump actually, because people are going, this is just insane. And it's really insane.
And the classified documents case in particular, going back to that for a moment, that was the one that I was reading that all of the legal scholars were like, this is the worst one because he clearly did it. Now, obviously, the question is, should he be punished for it when literally every other president has done the same thing? And in the case of Joe Biden, vice president, who doesn't even have the authority to declassify anything in the first place. But the classified documents case seemed to be the strongest case against him. Now, the nuts and bolts of it is obviously a nothing burger, but the case was there. But now you have, as I mentioned before, the judge that has just indefinitely suspended it. Plus, on top of that, I was reading a story from yesterday that said that the FBI, you know, the photo from Mar-a-Lago of all of the top secret documents that photo was just completely staged by the FBI. There were no documents that said top secret on them like that. They added those pieces of paper. There they are right there. That photo that you saw that was shown on the Washington Post, on the New York Times, all of these outlets that were running this like, oh my gosh, the damning evidence against Donald Trump, whole thing completely staged. And by the way, that part was redacted before the judge made Jack Smith unredact some of this. And then we got to see the real story, which was the FBI was set out to do this day freaking one. This was all part of the plan. They wanted to embarrass him. They wanted to make it look worse than it is. And that's where that photo came from.
Listen, we've seen it over and over again, right? We've seen setups over and over again. We've seen that the campus protests do it, chug. The campus protests, right? They're not organic. The BLM movements, not organic. This picture, not organic. Yeah. You just seen it over and over again. And I mean, look, I don't have to tell anyone that watches this show that we're in a banana republic. I mean, we all know. And not a banana republic, it's a banana.
Banana.
Yeah, it's a banana republic.
It does sound like a fancier place to be.
Banana republic?
Yeah, it's fancier than a banana republic, yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have to be in one of those, I'd pick the banana.
Being a banana republic. So, but I mean, that's where we are. Unfortunately, that the country that I admired from afar. I mean, look, every country has issues, right? Every country has issues, but I still maintain it. The American people are fundamentally good people that want the right thing to be done. I do. I think this little teeny tiny group of weirdos that, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I think that they yell a lot, make a lot of noise, and people go, oh, God, oh, you know, instead of going, you know what, on your bike. You know, I don't think that it's the majority of American people. I think it's very few, but the few control the media for the most part. So not only does the squeaky wheel get the oil, it gets a massive platform. Yeah. So that's true. Yeah, I do think that the American people are getting fed up of it. I think they're really seeing this now, and they're like, look, this is because here's the funny thing: they tried to imply about Trump that he was a bad guy. Look at Orange Man bad. Look at him. He's having an affair. He's doing all this. He's doing all that. Going all the way back to 2016, he got accused of this and that. Look what a bad person. And then they're going on and actually diverting the justice system, which is way worse than any kind of moral indiscretion that he might or might not have, by the way, personally. Yeah. Like you're literally changing the legal system and doing things that are damaging the actual fabric of the republic. I mean, this is very, very serious. And Dershowitz said this, like, people really need to start looking and seeing what this really means, what they're doing, and it's very bad. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of that, on that vein, when we come back, let's talk about the other side of this, which is Joe Biden and his foreign policy just continues to be more disastrous. Before we go to break, though, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the audio podcast. We're picking random reviews to read, so you may see if you go subscribe to it, rate and review it. If you leave us a good review, we're fond of flattery here. Okay, so if you leave us a good review, or I don't know, maybe be super deprecating, and I might show that too. Just give us 5 stars. It's fine. So make sure that you go subscribe wherever you get your audio podcasts, and we sure would appreciate it. We will be right back. So Joe Biden has said that he will withhold approved shipments of military aid to Israel if Israel invades Rafah in the southern part of Gaza. And, obviously, Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu has already said they are going to do that. And so Biden said, I'm not supplying them with any, they have to abide by what I'm saying. I made it clear I'm not supplying the weapons if they do this. Here's some of that on CNN.
I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah,
Looks like a
to
corpse.
deal with the cities,
His
to deal
chin's
with
going
that
to that
problem.
weird ball chin thing that he does, right?
Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome
He is
and
dying,
their ability to respond to attacks like came out of in the Middle East recently. But it's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
Great. That's awesome. So now, look, I do wonder, I don't think that there are any Democrats who are like staunch Democrats who think Orange Man bad and all of the things that we were talking about earlier. I'm not sure that you convince those people that Donald Trump is their guy instead, but perhaps they don't show up at the polls because, Biden's doing this now. I don't think that that is going to win the pro-Palestinian protesters to go out and vote for him. And now he's pissing off all the people who support Israel, who are also Democrats. And there's honestly way more of those than there should be because the Democrat Party has been growing anti-Semitic for a very, very long time now. And there are so many Jewish people who are Democrats. And it's like, are you guys looking at your own party and what they're about? And so now it feels like the chickens are coming home to roost. And it's like, okay, you've drawn your lines. I guess let's see how Americans feel about that.
Yeah, clearly this is to kind of backtrack with all the pushback he's had from, with the college protests. So well done.
Enough.
Well done, George Soros. Your ploy worked, right? You managed to get Biden to change his position on this. I have no idea why anyone who is Jewish would ever vote Democrat. Like, I don't understand it, especially with the squad. And they're clearly anti-Semitic. We know that. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Some people did some things, as Ilhan Omar said about 9/11. Some people did some things.
Listen, I think her in particular is so galling to me because she's an immigrant like I am.
Yeah.
And you don't come here and then, people who love the country don't come here and try and bend it to the shithole that you left. Right? You don't, look, I know quite a bit about Somalia, having been in a movie that was about it, right? And we had to read a lot about that. Like, you don't want to be going to war-torn Somalia. Mm-hmm. So you think when people come to this country that they would actually appreciate it and embrace it. And by the way, most people who come here legally do that, right? They do that. But how, if you are Jewish, and listen, same thing if you're Catholic, by the way, or Christian, you shouldn't be voting Democrat. You shouldn't. I don't see any under any circumstances. And by the way, I'm going to say it again. Please don't say that Joe Biden is a Catholic. He's not a Catholic. Nancy Pelosi's not a Catholic. They should be excommunicated from the church. End of. That's it. Mm-hmm. Right? So, you're right. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place now because he's kind of like half flip-flopping. So there's, like you say, there's going to be a lot of people going, hang on a minute, you just said that. And the people protesting, they're going to keep protesting, right? Because that's what they want, disruption.
Right.
So you're not putting that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. Which again is like, I personally, I love whenever this blows up in the Democrats' faces because that's what they do. They create these little radical activists who are very dumb, usually very young, and they fill their brain with all these, same thing with the climate change crowd. It's like, oh my gosh, the earth is going to just completely implode if we don't stop climate change. And they create these radical little activists. And then what happens? The radical activists turn on the Democrat lawmakers for not doing enough because they've set themselves up to never be satisfied.
Yeah.
We've got completely unlivable standards for all of this. So, I just want to make this clear. The aid that Joe Biden, this is how weird it is. The aid that Joe Biden is refusing to deliver to Israel was the aid that was already approved by the congressional bills and already signed by Joe Biden. It was already all done. And now he's like, actually, you know what? Never mind. That's how bad he's trying to like backpedal. I just don't think it's going to work.
I mean, the whole thing is a shit show, isn't it?
I know.
I mean, the Congress is terrible. Biden's terrible. I mean, you got to think about this, Sarah, and I was pondering this today on social media, is that you have Biden who clearly is not all there. I mean, we've been saying this for a long time. I know it's a radical thing to say.
Why would you say such a thing? President Balchin, you don't think is all there? Sorry.
I mean, no, it is. I mean, it's like I felt like we say this every day or every time we're on. Like the guy's clearly not compass mentis, right? Like
that guy, you don't think is all there?
Look at him. Yeah.
That is. Excuse me. His doctor said he has vigor. Okay, that's a vigorous man right there, Matt.
Yeah, look at him. He looks dynamic, doesn't he? It's a picture of dynamism, But here's the thing. I mean, in all seriousness, like, even if we say that he's just the figurehead of whoever the puppet masters are behind, they're making a bunch of decisions that we don't really know about, right? Because these things, a lot of things get passed, right? A lot of things get moved around with us not knowing until there's a crisis or until something happens where you go to do something or you think you've got like these freedoms or you've got this or that. And you're like, oh shit, they took it away. They took this away. They took that away. For example, like gain of function, right? Yeah. Gain of function. They're still, we still haven't had an answer about where the coronavirus came from. And we're looking into, was this something that... Huh?
I said, we know. But go ahead.
I'm not even going to say it.
No,
I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But China. So, but how much is he destroying, or the cabal destroying behind the scenes, little things here, little things there? Why are they letting these kind of merging, let's say, on gain of function with military research along with medical research, all these little things that they're picking away at that will basically collapse the infrastructure of the country. Yeah, it's really bad.
I know it is. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. Speaking of our feckless leader, President Depends, I want to play Joe Biden yesterday not being able to read the prompter. Watch.
My theology professor at the Catholic school I went to was a guy named Riley, last name. And he had been drafted by the Green Bay Packers.
I shouldn't have said he can't read he's reading every single thing that's on the prompter. So when you have the little brackets and it says last name, you're not supposed to read that, which anyone who's ever read a prompter knows, even though he's had like 50 years of experience in this. And it just reminded me of something.
Well, that's going to do it for all of us here at Channel 4 News. You stay classy, San Diego. I'm Ron Burgundy.
They should have put the bit from Bruce Almighty on, I like her, do the cha-cha. You know the one? Do you remember Bruce Almighty? Come on, you don't remember Bruce Almighty?
I remember it.
Oh,
thank you, God.
Okay, Steven remembers it.
See, it's...
Steven, I didn't tell you to chime in.
Sorry.
Oh.
It's fine. Well, I'll have to look at that then.
Yeah.
Congratulations, America.